Do you know where the largest dump in the world is? Well, more than likely it's not where you would think it was. It's in the Pacific Ocean. The polluted area is called the Central North Pacific Gyre, and it is more than 5 million square miles. It's roughly the size of the United States and India combined, and it contains more than 3.5 million tons of garbage. Here is a picture of, it's twice the size of Texas, right just off the west coast of California, about 1,000 miles. And the main region that I will focus on today is called the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Oceanic pollution is a major problem with dire consequences extending far beyond the reaches of the ocean alone. It affects the rest of the world as well as the whole human race. While ocean pollution directly affects ocean organisms, it indirectly affects us. Until people take the time to learn more about and address these issues, the pollution will continue to get worse and oceanic environments will continue to decline. The most harmful form of pollution in this ocean is toxic waste. Toxic waste consists of poisonous materials that are almost constantly being dumped into our ocean. Toxic waste gets into the seas and oceans through the leaking of our landfills, dumps, mines, and farms. Farm chemicals and heavy metals from factories can have a very harmful effect on marine life and eventually humans. For example, when an ocean organism consumes this toxic waste, it can quickly be passed along the food chain and eventually end up in our food. One of the most harmful chemicals in the ocean is lead, which contributes to an extensive list of health problems. Some of these problems include damage to the brain, kidneys, and reproductive system. Chemical pesticides from farming are also harmful. When it rains, these pesticides are taken off the plants and washed into our oceans and waterways. One way to decrease the amount of pesticide pollution is by limiting the amount of pesticides sprayed on our crops and our gardens. Another way is to buy organic products which only are grown with natural pesticides. But there are infinitely more reasons why our oceans look the way they do. And here's a picture of how it looks today. This is the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, and then there's a guy canoeing through it. So, pretty bad. Scientists have determined that the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is caused by a series of currents that is constantly depositing our garbage in one concentrated area. So how does this happen? When it rains, garbage that has been deposited in our streams or even our streets, it gets washed into storm drains and eventually ends up in our rivers. And because the ocean is downhill from just about everywhere, the garbage floats from the rivers into the ocean. This region brings pollution from North America as well as Asia into one concentrated area where all the garbage is deposited. This area is made up of 80% plastic material. In fact, so much of the garbage is plastic waste that the entire area has been called a plastic soup. In some areas of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, there is more plastic than there is the basic food organism of the ocean, plankton, the building blocks of the oceanic environment. Plastic bags are abundant here, as well as styrofoam. Polystyrene, which is a type of plastic used in food packaging, and clear plastic cups is also found here. Because it is non-biodegradable, plastic can last hundreds of years, and it can float hundreds of miles away from where it was released. In this region, areas that were once beaches have become areas in which very little sand exists. We used to get sand from corals and rocks, and now we're getting it for breaking down plastic. Another problem with plastic is that it doesn't sink or float. Plastic doesn't decompose, but it does eventually break down from salt and sunlight. Unfortunately, the plastic breaks up into little pieces, which small fish mistake for food. The fish that eat these smaller bait fish also end up eating plastic, and so the cycle continues all the way down to your Friday night fish fry. Today, less than 5% of recyclable items worldwide are recycled. We have a few options. We can continue doing what we're doing and eventually face the multitude of foreseeable as well as unforeseeable consequences. We can recycle by putting the proper materials in the correct areas, or we can find an alternative to plastic. Eventually, these simple steps will aid in the cleaning up of our oceanic environment and make the food that we consume cleaner. This is something that requires minimal effort but can make a big difference for the future of our planet.